उनकी यात्रा अब अजीत अंजुम तक पहुंच गई है। मुझे पता नहीं अभी तक रवीश के यहाँ गए कि नहीं गए, लेकिन रवीश के यहाँ भी आपको शीघ्र मिल जाएंगे। और भी हैं जो इस तरह के, पूर्ण प्रसून वाजपेयी के यहाँ भी आपको शीघ्र मिलेंगे।
तब तक गाइस मैं आपके लिए एक और वीडियो
सुब्रमण्यम स्वामी जी ने बहुत बड़े बड़े खुलासे किए, और उनका और अजीत अंजुम जी का जो कॉम्बो है वो तो चलेगा ही, क्योंकि अजीत अंजुम और पूर्ण प्रसून वाजपेयी और रवीश कुमार, इन लोगों का ही तो मामला सारा का सारा चल रहा है कि भाई योगी को हटाया जा रहा है और मोदी योगी में डिफरेंस हो गए हैं और मोदी योगी को खत्म कर देगा, इत्यादि इत्यादि। तो सुब्रमण्यम स्वामी जी क्या कह रहे हैं? सुब्रमण्यम स्वामी जी कह रहे हैं कि देखिए, मोदी को तो मैंने बनवाया प्राइम मिनिस्टर। सुब्रमण्यम स्वामी ने मोदी को प्राइम मिनिस्टर बनवाया। कह रहे कि भाई आरएसएस तो उनके खिलाफ थी, लेकिन मैंने जो है वो आरएसएस से बात करके और सुब्रमण्यम और मोदी को प्राइम मिनिस्टर बनवाया। और फिर प्राइम मिनिस्टर के पास जब मैं पहली बार गया तो प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने मुझसे बड़ा रिग्रेट किया कि देखिए मैं आपको भी नहीं बना पा रहा हूं, लेकिन मैंने कहा कि मैं तो आपके साथ हूं। अच्छा, उसके बाद फिर उनको राज्यसभा की सीट मिल गई थी, यदि आपको ध्यान हो। लेकिन आप जानते हैं स्वामी जी हमारे कैसे हैं, उनकी महत्वाकांक्षा का कोई अंत है ही नहीं। वे जो है आज तक के कभी न बने हुए भारत के सर्वश्रेष्ठ वित्त मंत्री हैं। तो यदि उनको कहीं वित्त मंत्रालय मिल जाए तो पता नहीं क्या क्या कर देंगे। वो कह रहे हैं कि साहब हमके सारे टैक्स खत्म कर देंगे और सब कुछ जो है वो बिल्कुल चलाएंगे, चाणक्य की नीति की तरह संभवतः। हालांकि चाणक्य तो भाई कर के प्रति बहुत ही सजग था और सभी पर कर लगाता था, और जो उन्होंने अपने कर की नीति है वो पूरी उनके अर्थशास्त्र में लिखी हुई है। लेकिन हमारे सुब्रमण्यम स्वामी जी सबसे बड़े चाणक्य हैं। और क्या कह रहे हैं सुब्रमण्यम स्वामी जी? वो कह रहे हैं कि देखिए भाई, योगी को ये दोनों जो है वो आश्रम भेज देंगे। तो योगी मोदी वाला जो चैप्टर था, जो अब एंड हो चुका है, आपको भी पता है क्योंकि आप हमारे जयपुर डायलॉग्स को देखते रहते हैं, तो योगी और मोदी का चैप्टर एंड हो चुका है। ये तय हो गया है कि केशव प्रसाद मौर्य की ही बलि दी जाएगी, और यह भी तय हो गया है कि केशव प्रसाद मौर्य संगठन को सरकार से बड़ा बताने के बाद अभी भी डिप्टी सीएम के रूप में सरकार में बने रहेंगे और अपना थूक के चाट के और सारी कैबिनेट मीटिंग में बैठेंगे और जाके योगी से माफी भी मांगेंगे चुपचाप। हालांकि चुपचाप तो नहीं, योगी जी को चुपचाप केशव प्रसाद मौर्य से माफी नहीं स्वीकार करनी चाहिए, तो माफी मांगनी है उनको, क्योंकि उन्होंने काम ही ऐसा किया। व्यक्ति अपना स्वयं का बूथ हार गया। मुझे ये तो पता था कि वो अपनी विधानसभा की सीट हार गए, कौशाम्बी लोकसभा सीट हार गए, स्वयं विधानसभा में हार गए। अब पता चल रहा है कि कौशाम्बी में जहां उनका घर है और जो उनका बूथ है वो भी हार गए। और ऐसे व्यक्ति जो हैं वो संगठन को सरकार के ऊपर बता रहे हैं।
भाई जी क्या बारे में चलो इसको छोड़ते हैं यहाँ से ना, फेसबुक की तरफ चलते हैं जरा। इस भाई को मैं 5 मिनट ज्यादा नहीं सुन पाता है, पता नहीं क्यों। इसकी मतलब क्या ही मैं बोलूं आपको। I have something wrong with this guy, you know. It's like just not my style. ये कुछ है गाइस।
कुछ भी खाए, हलाल नहीं खाना। अच्छा, खाने की भी बात नहीं रह गई। अभी शिंदे जी ने बताया, वो तो लिपस्टिक भी हलाल आ रही है, कपड़ा भी आ रहा है, घर भी हलाल आ रहा है, कार्ड स्वाइप करने की मशीन भी हलाल आ रही है। उसमें क्या प्रॉब्लम हो रही है? क्या कार्ड स्वाइप कर रहा है वो भी हलाल और हराम है? अल्टीमेटली क्या है? अल्टीमेटली क्या है इस सबका मतलब? इस सबका मतलब ये है कि एक ग्रुप ने ये डिसाइड कर लिया, हम अपना सारा इकोनॉमिक ट्रांजैक्शन आपस में ही करेंगे। यही है, मैं वही खरीदूंगा जो मेरे धर्म का आदमी बनाएगा, कोई और बनाएगा तो मेरे धर्म को पैसा देगा अपना, उसका टैक्स देगा, मुसलमान ना होने का टैक्स देगा, उसके बाद हम खरीदेंगे। उसके बाद उसमें चाहे मिलावट करे, वो मलेशिया में कर रहा है, लंदन में कर रहा है, अमेरिका में कर रहा है, कुछ भी करे। उसके बाद
मादर चौथ तभी तो तुम्हारे मसाले भी बैन कर दिए उन्होंने। ये रंडी के बच्चे
इकोनॉमी खड़ी की जा रही है पूरी दुनिया में। इसके बाद क्या कर रही है? ऐसा तो नहीं है ना एक पैसे से तुम बड़ा समाज का भला कर रहे हो तो कोई ये सोचे चल $2 ट्रिलियन है वापस तो समाज में ही लगा रहे हैं, तो आतंकवादियों को फंडिंग कर रहे हो, आतंकवादियों का केस लड़ रहे हो, सामने से आके लड़ रहे हो। और देश के गृह मंत्री को बोल रहे कोलकाता एयरपोर्ट से, वो तो निकले कोलकाता एयरपोर्ट।
तुमसे आर्मी ना लगती क्या बोलूं मैं?
किलोमीटर आगे तेरे को भी भेजेगा थोड़े दिनों के।
तुमसे आर्मी ना लगती मैं क्या बोलूं?
लेकिन स्थिति भयानक है, चिंताजनक है, गंभीर है। जबरदस्ती हमारी जेब से हमारा पैसा निकलवा के पैरेलल इकोनॉमिक स्ट्रक्चर खड़ा किया जा रहा है।
मैं चोरी हाथ में दे दूंगा, मैं बक बुक सबकी गांड फाड़ दूंगा मैं। तुम काय की चिंता करते हो गाइस? क्या लगा रहे तुम मेरे को? सत्ता में आने दो एक बार बेटा मेरे को। ये देखो ये आएंगे जुड़े हैं अदर क्या गांडी का पता क्या गंदा बीमारी पैदा हो चुकी है ये पृथ्वी पे। इनका डीएनए में खराब है बहन का लड़का है ये, ना मर्द है ना औरत है, क्या है ये माँ का बहुत बड़ा what the fuck is this shit, right? Like it's like DNA is wrong, you know, something is wrong with this shit, religion is not the proper thing, you know.
ਖਬਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਸੁਣ ਲਈ ਹੋਣੀ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹੜਾ 800 ਤੋਂ ਪਲੱਸ ਤ੍ਰਿਪੁਰਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟ HIV ਪੋਜ਼ਿਟਿਵ ਪਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ ਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ। 47 ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਮਰ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਨੇ HIV ਨਾਲ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਦੱਸਾਂਗੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਵਿੱਚ, ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਤੇ ਗੌਰ ਕਰਨਾ ਕਿ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਬਹੁਤੇ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟ 800 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ HIV ਪੋਜ਼ਿਟਿਵ ਪਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ ਉਹ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਸਟੇਟਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ मूव हो चुके ने। सो ये
भाई देखो ये तो बचने वाली बात है गाइस, अपने पड़ोस में कोई नया बंदा आए पता कर लो भाई।
ट्रस्ट प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी बन चुका है। सवाल इसलिए उठता है क्योंकि प्रभु श्री राम के मंदिर को तमाम
ये तो देख लिया था गाइस हमने नाटक। अब गाइस और क्या देखें आज? रिलेशनशिप में कुछ है? एक सेकंड गाइस, रिलेशनशिप में बस अरे गाइस ये क्या हो गया? मैंने तो गेम ओवर कर जाए तो गाइस वीडियो गेम में निकल जाए तो भाई वीडियो गेम ओवर कर दी और पाप लगता है इसका बहुत बुरा।
मेरा जो भी है
क्या लौड़ा तू भी बहन चोर होने लग गया क्योंकि भाई काम नहीं होते भाई करने वाले। वीडियो गेम में फिर बहुत बड़ी सजा मिलती है ऊपर जाने की भाई, ये गलत है, ऐसे नहीं करते भाई। गाइस ये क्या हो रहा है? हाँ इनकी तो मैंने बना दिया था। ये देखो गाइस ये क्या है बहन चोर।
दादाजी तो मर गए हैं।
दादाजी तो मर गए हैं और ये पैदा किया गया जो आपने नया नया।
पापा को शौक हुआ है कि फिर से पैसे खर्च करके
ये आज की जनरेशन देख रहे हो।
किया जाए। मैंने बार-बार मना किया था बट मेरा सुनता ही कौन है। तो मेरे दादाजी की इच्छा था कि वो मरने के बाद उनका
देख रहे हो गाइस ये आपस में हंस रहे हैं, आपस में दिखा रहे हैं क्या 1.1 मिलियन क्या हो रहा है गाइस? क्यों है ये LGBT क्यों है ये क्या है? आई डोंट नो गाइस। गाइस ये सब रिलेशनशिप से तो हम दूर रहते हैं, तो रिलीजन साइड में चल के देखते हैं क्योंकि वो गाइस प्रॉब्लम वहीं पे, झगड़ा वहीं पे है, समय खराब वहीं पे है सबसे ज्यादा। अच्छा चलो गाइस ये आज लाइव में देखें क्या हो रहा है। ये तो हिंदी वाला दिखाओ भाई कुछ। जीसस अपीयर विद, अरे भाई जीसस आ गया ऊपर से, अरे 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 end of the world.
Fair Lawn, New Jersey, wondering if it will happen again.
This isn't the plot of a science fiction movie. This is 2024. The year has just begun, not long ago, but people around the world have already witnessed enough shocking scenes.
Guys,
in Burbank, California,
a
man named Haas Morales spotted something unusual in the sky. He filmed it and wondered out loud if it was Jesus Christ descending. In the video, he can be heard speaking Spanish to his family, saying it looks like a man coming down from the...
Thousands of residents in Melbourne's east will now be able to get fast food to their door by drone. And as Isabel Quinlan explains, the service is set to take off all over town. Flying high from the store to your door.
ड्रोन से खाना वाना डिलीवर हो रहा है, ये तो कमाल ही नहीं हो रहा। अरे अरे गोंडा में हत्या, वो क्या हो गया? ट्रेन
उत्तर प्रदेश
कितने 4 मर गए गाइस।
तो बचाव और राहत का कार्य सब
अरे 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 चलो गाइस।
It's an epic meltdown at the airport.
नहीं गाइस
मैं आप दोनों से फिर से मिलना चाहता हूँ मेरे घर में एक पॉडकास्ट शूट के लिए इन द फ्यूचर।
जरूर करेंगे।
चल भाई कर।
A manhunt is underway for a heartless hit-run driver who fled.
ये ना हो पाएगा हमसे।
अमेरिका में 23 साल की लड़की को 25 साल के एक लड़के से
फिर बहन तो क्या करें
और चंदेरी पुराण के कोई
गाइस ये बकवास है बहन चोद। ये हमसे सिर में दर्द हो जाता गाइस। हम कहाँ आ गए थे, कहाँ से कहाँ पहुंच गए। भोले के बारे में जानना चाहते हो गाइस या बॉलीवुड का बनाया प्रोग्राम? यूपी में का हुई बा पॉलिटिक्स खेलेंगे इस थोड़ी सी, देखें क्या हो रहा है। चल भाई चल,
ये शो मजे का है, बहुत सीरियसली नहीं बताएंगे सब बात।
बोलो जल्दी बोलो।
मेहमानों से आपको
मिलवा दूं सबसे पहले आज पहले मेहमान, उसके बाद फिर हमारा बाकी की रवायत। प्रदीप सिंह जी हमारे साथ हैं, बहुत स्वागत प्रदीप सिंह जी आपका। आप देश कुमार जी आज प्रोग्राम में हमारे साथ, मेरे साथ पहली बार आए, बहुत
दो ही जने ले गए हो यार, जब 3 जने यार चाय की टपरी पे ज्यादा बैठ जाते हैं यार, क्या हो गया ये?
पक रहा है। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कभी कभी वहां शतरंज की बिसात बिछी हुई है, लेकिन अलग ये है कि राजा के अपने ही घोड़े हाथी अपने ही राजा को टाइट करने में लगे पड़े हैं, ऐसा लोग कह रहे हैं यूपी के बारे में। कितना सच है अभी पता चल जाएगा आपको। डेवलपमेंट ये, केशव प्रसाद मौर्य जी डिप्टी चीफ मिनिस्टर जो हैं वो दिल्ली आए, उन्होंने नड्डा साहब से मुलाकात की।
ये ना थोड़ा सा मेरे को फिर वही वाली बात है,
फिर उन्होंने आज प्रधानमंत्री से भी
क्रोध आने लग जाता है फिर मेरे को ना इन चीजों के ऊपर। फिर मैं क्या बोलूं, क्योंकि जब ये धर्म पे बात आ जाती ना फिर बहन, फिर मैं उस दुनिया में भी जाना नहीं चाहता। अभी थोड़ा मैं कुछ और देखेंगा इस अभी ये ठीक है ये एथियस्ट वाला ड्रामेबाजी ना, क्योंकि ये एक नौटंकी बढ़िया लगती है। कोई समझे ना समझे, अपने को मतलब इनका नौटंकी अंग्रेजी की बढ़िया है। चल बोलो।
Overlap with my interview with the then Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams. I found both men highly impressive and was sorry the interview with Father Coyne had to be left out.
Father
Coyne, this program is directed towards the 200th anniversary of Darwin's birth and the 150th in some sense.
Would characterize it wrongly by thinking that I am a spokesman for the Catholic Church.
No, I never said that. I said you were a spokesman for one strand of thought within the Catholic Church.
I think I fit into one strand, but I have no official position. But mind you, that's not terribly important. It's what we think. And I think that's terribly important to recognize right at the beginning, that the Catholic Church is often thought of as being very monolithic in its thinking. The point is there are very great divergences acceptable within the Catholic tradition. There is no Catholic point of view on many things. There are on many things, but on evolution there is no what I would call official Catholic view. The point I've taken in the recent debate is that sometimes churchmen present a view as if it were the official Catholic position, where it is not. And that view sometimes establishes kind of a conflict between religious doctrine, Catholic thinking, and modern scientific evolutionary theory. And so I felt an obligation in recent times to speak out as I was director of the Vatican Observatory at the time, so I had an official position. No, I've retired as of a year ago.
Okay. Could you then tell us what your own position as George Coyne is on evolution and intelligent design?
Okay, my position is George Coyne, and I think it represents a significant number of Catholic scientists is the following. That the best scientific explanation we have of the origin of the universe and everything in the universe, including all living systems and ourselves, is by what I call neo-Darwinian evolution. And I think we all know what we mean by that. That is that the whole theory of Darwin modernized with genetic mutation, natural selection, and all of that, I think is the
guy who won this debate is the guy,
we have of
in my previous video
that I spoke of.
Thomas Campbell.
I clearly agree with that, and I believe that Pope John Paul II would have agreed with that as well.
In that amount of detail, I couldn't say. I don't think he would have disagreed. He certainly said very officially in a very official document to the Pontifical Academy of Sciences that evolution is no longer a mere hypothesis. That from many of the scientific disciplines, it's now what I call the best explanation we have. By the way, I use the word, and you tell me if you agree or not with me on this point, the best scientific explanation we have of the origins of the universe and everything in it. I avoid the word theory.
Yes, me too.
Because certainly in American English, the theory gets the idea of it's only a theory.
Yes.
It's someone's idea.
Yes.
Where it is the best scientific explanation, and it does not at all contrast with any Catholic teaching.
Right. Okay. Would the present Pope agree with that, do you think?
I can't speak for him. I can only think about him, and I would say he would agree with that. That is the best scientific explanation. It does not contrast with any doctrinal statements or theology.
वीडियो गेम है, वीडियो गेम जो हमने बनाया है, अपन बनाया है. काहे दुखी हो रहे हो तुम? आइए ना हमारा बिहार में.
As of about, to my
अरे हमारा
knowledge,
YouTube देखिए ना.
I just received
समझ में आ जाएगा बाबू.
a pre-publication book that has come out by Cardinal Schoenborn. It's the report, it's an anthology of a series of lectures he gave in Vienna, subsequent to a bit of controversy that arose from his New York Times op-ed article. And the book is excellent. I think had he said this and not said what he did in the New York Times op-ed article, I would have no problem with it.
That's very interesting. So in what way does it differ from the New York Times?
Well, he speaks of what I think essentially, it's very hard to characterize the whole book in a few words, but if I were, it would be he's very carefully distinguishes what he calls evolutionism from evolution. He calls it a theory, so I'll use that word, the scientific theory of evolution. And what he means by that, and I agree with him totally on this, is to take the best scientific explanation we have and extend it beyond the science, is what he calls evolutionism. That is to reduce, for instance, to reduce the human being to a material object in the universe and fail to recognize that from other disciplines outside of science, there is a much richer, if I can use that word, richer view of the human endeavor. That is religion, culture in general, literature, poetry.
Must follow the facts.
The human being is
Where are your facts, buddy? It's all just woo-woo, otherwise, where are your fucking facts?
Scientist in the very strict methodology of science. The human being is more than what methodologically science can discover.
If we're talking about poetry, which you've just mentioned, then there is a sense in which anybody would have to accept that that's true. However, there are many scientists who would say that there's nothing actually supernatural in the human makeup. Poetry is something which emerges from brain stuff in a way that we certainly don't understand in any detail. But I think I certainly would want to make a distinction between acknowledging that on the one hand and trying to bring in something supernatural on the other.
The idea of bringing in something supernatural, I think, is a caricaturization of what religious faith is all about. A scientist or any other human being can accept or deny the supernatural. But what you cannot do is on scientific, strictly methodological scientific grounds, deny the supernatural.
No, I think I agree you can't actually deny it, but isn't it then part of a very large population of things that you can't deny, for which there's no positive evidence? I mean, you can't deny fairies at the bottom of the garden, but neither of us take it seriously. So
positive evidence is a key word here, I think.
But is there any?
Oh, there certainly is positive evidence for the supernatural, but it goes outside the scientific endeavor, because the scientific endeavor, by its methodology, is limited to explaining natural events by natural causes. Or if you wish, I don't like to use the word material, but we can use it in this context, material events that we observe by material causes, and it's limited to that. but it is limited to that.
But you've used the word evidence. What sort of evidence you...
And they're exactly what I'm trying to say, right? So with my thoughts, if I can do what I can do, right? You got to check my channel then, and then that's something. No, they will be
Speaking of,
need to think about, you know.
Speaking of the whole traditions from at least
The power of
2,000
mantra,
years
guys.
before Christ
The power
up
of
until
mantra.
modern times,
Yantra,
but
mantra,
the whole
tantra.
of Judaic Christian, of Islamic literature, of church traditions that have been passed on since the founding of the church, etc. They are all well-established human endeavors. Now, you can examine those and accept them, or you can examine them and reject them, but they have to be examined. They are clear evidence outside of science. I mean, they're not tricks. Somebody is not tricking us into believing this.
They're evidence that in these traditions people thought certain things, but that doesn't mean that what they thought was right. It's hardly evidence just that people for 2,000 years have thought something.
That is correct. That is correct. But if I examine what they've thought over this long period of times, I find that I can, without divorcing my whole rational structure, I can accept that. I do not find that I, as a person and as a scientist, am sort of schizophrenic. That is, I'm being strict about my scientific methodology, but I'm being juvenile. I'm being non-rational. I'm being non-inquisitive.
But then that's how you, like, people look at you as like a funny guy, you know. It's not like you're not being authentic, you know, not being authentic or not being adult, not being a mature guy who can talk about the real stuff, like what the fuck is this wood about, what the fuck is this bottle about, what the fuck is this iPad about, you know. So it's all about like being a little, you know, non-rational. It doesn't work in reality, I guess.
And church tradition and all that comes with them. I think it's coherent.
Yes. You mentioned both the Christian tradition and the Islamic tradition. These are not the same. Yes. So how do you decide which one? I mean, you're a Catholic priest.
Now this is interesting. Now it is getting interesting.
On that tradition rather than
now, guys, it's getting fucking interesting.
History. All of us have our personal history, which we struggle with. I mean, I grew up in a very Catholic family. Okay.
Very good.
Does that mean that I've been duped? I grew up in a Catholic family.
I'm here to save your soul, bro. Why you worry? Your God is here. Why you worry, bro?
Rejection of that. I grew up as an adult. I studied science, and I found through my own personal history, and
bro,
I think
you're a
this
good guy.
reflects
Don't worry about
many us believing scientists. Through my own personal history, I found not only was there an inconsistency, but there was a coherence.
Hey, bro.
But if you had been brought up in an Islamic country, you'd be a Muslim, therefore.
And then now things get interesting, isn't it? Like, now what the fuck is that shit all about? Like, if you really look at it, right, the book is written the other way around. It's not the normal way, right? Like the Sanskrit is written from here to here, right? What is it? From left to right? And then English is the same, right? And more like 99.99% languages are like that. Only one book is like that. And that's what it is, 786, right? Remember this number, 786. The whole code is corrupted, right? This is like, you know, bugs in your fucking software, right? This is the bug, and I'm here to fix that.
So I mean, we are all subject to
786, because I told you the code, right? Remember, I told you the code. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It starts from 0 to 9, right? And then in the middle we get some kind of bugs. Like 786 is a bug. It doesn't flow, and we need to fix this. Boom.
Yeah, but doesn't that undermine your feeling of validity of the one you just happen to have been born into?
No, because this is a faith statement now. It's my firm belief that God deals with each of us in his own way.
See, I'm the engineer of this planet, kind of like, if you really look at it. So I know how to fix fucking my code, right?
That's a very challenging question. I would say there are ingredients of God's speaking to the Muslim tradition, to the Buddhist tradition, to the Catholic tradition. There are elements of
I'm speaking to you on my YouTube channel, bro.
to these people,
Hey, bro.
those traditions.
Hey, bro, I'm
Each of
talking
us
to you
wants to
live,
make our
bro.
own claims. I think it's always wrong for any of the traditions to
Hey,
claim
bro,
that
I'm
they
talking
have
to you
the
live.
absolute truth, that they are
I'm
the
telling you
ones
the
that God
absolute
really
fucking
speaks
truth,
to.
isn't it?
I think that's a caricature of what happens, but it has happened in history, of course. We have to face that.
Why don't you accept those things which are universal, like the existence of God? Why do you, in addition, accept those things which would be contradicted by these other traditions, like I don't know whether the virgin birth or just some part of the Catholic tradition which is particular to the Catholic tradition?
Because besides, believing in the existence of God, I firmly believe that God has spoken in a very special way, through the Jewish tradition up until the birth of his own son. I firmly believe that Jesus Christ is true God and true man.
Oh, you can call me that.
Out of my,
I have like 1,000 names, You can add more,
It's not incoherent with my life in general. And certainly not incoherent with my scientific pursuits.
No, not with that, but with the possibility that you might have been brought up in a different tradition and would believe something that really did contradict it.
Yes, okay, we're speaking now, if I could, sort of broaden the discussion, we're speaking about a very short period of human history, much less an extremely short period of cosmic history.
Yes.
So if we're living in a universe that's 14 billion years old, human civilization, how far back will we date just the first human being? Some fraction of a million years?
Yes, I mean, but that you wouldn't call that civilization.
No. And then, religious history, certainly Judeo-Christian tradition from, I would say, roughly 2,000 years before Christ. These are very short periods of time.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, I was here 5,000 years ago, just 5,000 years ago. 2,000 is just like that. You don't understand, like, how fucking time goes.
Who knows? And the whole kind of more cosmic, universal view of things that the religious traditions will not eventually unify.
Well, maybe the sort of paltriness of the human timescale compared to the timescale that you, as a distinguished astronomer, are used to dealing with, and I, as a biologist, am used to dealing with, doesn't that seem rather small? Don't you feel there's a kind of grandeur about the universe which the religious traditions you're talking about fail to do justice to?
Richard, I would firmly agree with you that many times we do not appreciate the fact that our religious traditions are very small in time. I expect also in space, though I'm not going to speak as to whether they're extraterrestrials. Let's leave that. But certainly from all we know thus far, probably very limited in space. And we don't appreciate that enough. I must tell you that...
See, I'll tell you about all this extraterrestrial and all the fucking alien stuff, right? It's pretty straightforward. So when the yug changes, technology changes. Right now, we have a different technology. When the yug will change, we have a different technology. And in that technology, we will have different kind of stuff, right? Now, that would be alien to you, but it's not really fucking alien to you. It's all digital. It's all like coded reality. There is nothing like, I am the only alien you need to know, the creator of this fucking thing.
My fellow colleagues in the pursuit of our religious pilgrimage within Catholicism, in particular Christianity in more general, and the Judeo-Christian tradition more generally, often tell them, do you realize that I firmly believe that God spoke to us? So, of course, we are limited in space and time, and religious tradition even more so. I often have to remind religious believers, especially in my own religious tradition, that we believe that God, through Scripture, is speaking to us. The inspiration of Scripture.
It's all.
What that exactly means
guys, all your scriptures, like even this Vedas, everything, right? It's all information-based system. Go check my last video out. Like it's all connected, right? Like you'll know what I'm talking about.
For church. But the point is, God is speaking to us. So we have to interpret. The authors of Scripture are human beings who lived in different cultures over a long period of time. For instance, the book of Genesis, rather clearly established now, is written by many authors over a long period of time. There are two creation stories that contrast if you try to interpret them literally and scientifically.
So to fix your all your
point is that
how do I say?
We believe our human beliefs, and we have to accept that.
We are in a yuga of Kali Yuga, right? Like that's like the age of lies, betrayal, all that shitty stuff, right? And the thing's going to change, right? So that's what the thing is.
Accept the limitations.
I'm here to change
we have
that,
to
right?
accept what I would call the fallibility of it.
To bring into a new yuga,
final truth.
A new way of life.
And much
for entire planet.
Extraterrestrials.
Otherwise, it won't survive. The system won't survive.
I say, I don't know
fucking humans
whether
are
God
stupid
spoke
as
to
dumb
them,
as
if they
fuck.
exist, and if He did what He said. All I know is what God said to us.
Greedy
What do you say to fellow Christians who take the book of Genesis literally, and Adam and Eve and 6 days and things like that?
I say as little as I have to, because I tend to get very upset by it. Any literalist, fundamentalist interpretation of Scripture, because it reveals a very fundamental ignorance of what Scripture is all about. And let me put it this way. Scripture was written between, let's say, 5,000 years, at least the traditions back to the prophet Abraham, the patriarchs, until about 200 years after Christ, which is the Gospel of St. John. That's the span of the Judeo-Christian scriptures. Modern science came to be roughly, in the 17th century, with Galileo through Leibniz.
एक बात बताओ, किसी ने 2-3-5 हजार साल पहले अगर कोई मसाले लेने गलती से पहुंच गया शिप के ऊपर इंडिया की तरफ, और उसने वहां पे कुछ अपना ज्ञान सीख लिया, कृष्ण की स्टोरी सीख ली, और वो स्टोरी लेके ये पहुंच गया अपने गांव की तरफ, और इसने कहा कि बहन से स्टोरी तो बहुत खतरनाक है, एक भगवान हुए थे, टोकरी में उनको लेके गए, आपको याद है टोकरी में लेके गए थे जब बारिश हो रही थी और चरणों पे छुआ था, वो पूरी स्टोरी है ना, आपको पता ही होगा कृष्ण की, अगर आपको बचपन की स्टोरी पता है तो, कैसे पैदा हुआ क्या हुआ था। तो इन्होंने वो स्टोरी कॉपी कर रखी है सारी इनकी, देखो जरा पूरी इनकी बाइबल सब देख रखा है मैंने, टोकरी में बच्चा घूम रहा है इनके भी, और सब मतलब कब स्टोरी वहां से वहां पहुंचते कृष्ण की स्टोरी वहां पहुंचते कितने साल लग गए। वो स्टोरी में कितनी बारी वो खुद ही दिखाया मैंने, कितनी बारी इन्होंने अमेंडमेंट करी है, और पता नहीं क्या किसने कौन क्या जोड़ दिया, और वो कौन, क्योंकि वो मेरे ख्याल में क्या हो रहा है कि कोई बंदा था मार्क जो जॉन, और ये 5-6 लौंडे होंगे, इन्होंने वो कहानी याद करी है और ये कहानी सुना दी इनको यूरोप साइड में, राइट, और वो कहानी फैलती गई, वो जो कृष्ण है वो क्राइस्ट बन गया, और इन्होंने वो रास्ते में ग्रीक से भी कुछ ज्यूस करके उठा लिया और उसको बना दिया जीसस, और उसके बदले अब होता है जमीन का प्रोग्राम, तो जमीन दे दो और जीसस ले लो।
No science in Scripture that can't be, because of that conflict of dates. No curiosity about how old was the universe, how did various things come to be. In fact, the stylistic
मंदिर का फायदा बता दिया मैंने तुम्हें, पूरे एक वीडियो पिछले देख लेना 2-3, इसको मैंने शायद दोबारा सुन के इसको मैं लाइव करूंगा, क्योंकि इसमें मैंने बहुत ज्यादा उल्टा सीधा बोल रहा, बहुत मैं ऐसे मजे ले रहा था, तो मैंने कॉफी 2-3 ज्यादा पी ली गाइस, फिर ज्यादा ही कुछ बोल दिया मैंने, थोड़ा मतलब मूड खराब था मेरा उस टाइम, हो जाता है कभी ना, क्रोध आया था भाई को बहुत ज्यादा, फिर वो वीडियो वगैरह ऐसे देख लिया गाय कटती के, फिर मेरे से रहा नहीं जाता गाइस, फिर बहुत ज्यादा वायरस मेरे को ठीक नहीं था, बग जो है ना 786 like that. Fucking that's too much for my
first day is because you had to have a day structure. And that's why at the end of each day of creation, and there was night and there was day. That's a poetic expression that God, this was
yin
a
yang,
structured kind of thing.
you need to go to the China too, right? They're also humans on planet. So yin yang, day and night, man and women, it's all
in other words, it's a literary style
system,
in order to teach
system.
something that is true, but it's not scientific. That's why I get upset.
But if the book of Genesis was written by fallible humans who didn't really know anything,
that's a very good question. We really truly believe that God working through these various cultures, that these writers were inspired to give the foundations for a religious tradition. What that inspiration means, what it doesn't mean, is God was not dictating to these people. That's clearly absurd to think that. But they were people of faith and a deep religious tradition, and that God was really working with them, okay, through their faith in creating a literature that would be foundational for future religious belief. To go into it in more detail, I'm afraid I studied it about 45 years or 50 years ago, so I could not recreate.
Let's switch to another topic. The statement by Pope John Paul II in 1996. Could you tell me a bit more about that?
Well, that statement truly came at a very epochal time. It was a statement made, as best I recall it, the message was given to the Pontifical Academy of Sciences on the occasion of a very significant meeting on what it was called as origins. And there were people from America, from NASA. There were eminent scientists there discussing evolutionary theory, expansion of the universe, etc. It was a scientific gathering, and the Pope addressed them. So you have to see the background as being very significant. This was an eminent group of international scientists gathered to discuss these very important scientific questions. On that occasion, the Pope wished to make it clear that after all this period of time,
हमारे पैरों को छुओ पोप प्रभु तुम्हारे यहाँ है पृथ्वी पर पोपे सारे पोपे ले आओ पैन दिलाना सारे पोपे चक ले पोपे सारे करो सारे पैन दिलाने. Sorry guys, I don't want to use the abusive word, but sometimes, it's funny,
Maybe
because it's Kalyug, I can do anything I want.
1996, when we knew less, but we knew quite.
But I need to end this, so this is the way it needs to end, I need to spit all my fucking venom out and we'll be ending this.
To put it in a very succinct way, he wanted to update the church's view of what scientists had accomplished. And he made it clear, very clear, because it's scientific disciplines. He said the point is there's a convergence here to this best scientific explanation, the theory of evolution. There's a convergence among many very significant disciplines: geology, paleontology, molecular biology, cosmology, astrophysics, that they all converge with many differences. As also admit, our pilgrimage is one of people that are ignorant and hopefully growing less ignorant as we learn more. But that the best scientific explanation from all of these disciplines together was evolution. And I think it was a very significant statement.
Evolution has been proven wrong, like just in my last video, so...
It came too late.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Richard, my reaction as a believing Catholic and scientist was, so what? We've known this for 50 years, that this is the best scientific explanation. I really honestly agree with that. So what? Because many times the church, for very good reasons, I'm not faulting the church, mind you, but for very good reasons, it trails behind in making a declaration like this. It trails behind by too long a period of time in absorbing
you're so fucking serious. It's all true, right? Like whatever you say, every fucking thing is true, right? But what I'm saying is not true. Oh, I'm so hurt.
What he was in fact saying is that the scientific explanation is the best explanation.
Yes, I think that's correct. Is the best explanation, but from within a scientific methodology, because he immediately goes on to talk about the philosophical and theological implications in all of this, which many of us will diverge on when you get to that stage.
Yes. What do you think is the appeal of the idea of intelligent design or creationism?
Well, it follows upon this very last point that we're making, the distinction between a scientific methodology and the philosophical, theological implications, which you cannot deny that we human beings are kind of driven either to deny or to assert that there are philosophical and theological implications from our scientific results. What intelligent design, and I speak from a very American point of view, because I think at least in its origins, it's a very kind of American phenomenon. In fact, I call it the intelligent design movement. And what it is, it's a mistaken attempt to try and use science to establish the what I call the implications of science, that is going beyond science to the philosophical, theological interpretation.
Yes.
So what intelligent design does, it begins with biology.
I'll tell you what it does, bro. Just give me 1 minute.
Correct me. But they offer various possibilities, blood clotting system in the human being. And various...
Richard, do you have anything to say, man?
That in present scientific understanding,
They say that there are irreducibly complex biological systems, and you can explain that better than I can, that cannot be explained within the scientific method and require an intelligent
it can be explained. Everything can be explained. I'm here to explain it.
They have suggested.
So annoying.
Ken Miller has, as you know, analyzed each of these cases, and you have, I'm sure, too. But Ken Miller, within the Catholic tradition, as a biologist, simply says none of it holds up. We can explain it if you carefully examine what evolution
Now you're
does.
just
You can
mixing
explain
your
this evolution
words,
as
bro.
creative.
Come to the conclusion.
Organism, that pre-existed the current irreducibly complex organism, as they call
Richard,
it.
do you have anything to
It
say,
takes
bro?
this organism, which had a
Richard,
one function
Richard, say
before,
something.
and it integrates it into another function. Evolution is very creative that way. Well, the fault of intelligent design, the fundamental fault,
I just told you,
steps outside.
bro. There is a fundamental fault. 786, guys. Remember 786, and I'm here to fix it. Right? So let's
Scientific
continue.
methodology and not acknowledge it's doing it. It's a religious movement.
Exactly, guys.
Intrinsically judged.
My channel is a religious movement
In the
too.
United States, whenever it's come before a court, it's been judged such, and therefore cannot be taught in the public school system in the United States because it's a religious movement. The other, I'd like to say, I think, absurdity of intelligent design is in its attempt to bring God into the picture.
Well, you
creates,
have to.
and I really mean creates a God.
Otherwise,
It's not the God
what's
I
the
believe
point
in.
of me creating the fucking thing?
It's a God who's a
Oh,
designer.
it annoys me, you motherfucker. You
I mean,
forget
I've
me.
been to, the Milan in Italy, one of the great capitals of designing, fashion clothes and all. We design cars.
What's the point of all of it?
Everything. The God I believe in is not that kind of designer, an engineer or someone that has to be continually.
I really like this guy,
sort of touching up the universe because it's not running the way he wanted it to run, he or she. I think it not only
He got the point.
it doesn't not admit that it's stepping outside of science. When it steps into religion, it's really, I'm certain intelligent design appears to religious people is because of what I've said before. They look upon God as a God of explanation. And to have a God who designed all this is clearly something that they would want. Because if God did not design it, who did?
Exactly.
And the answer scientifically, of course, is nobody. Nature, if you want. Because as we know very well, there is, if you want, a certain intrinsic destiny in the evolutionary process, right? through survival of the fittest and through
there are so many laws,
complexity, a more complex chemical. Its future is more determined than a less complex chemical. Of course, there's decomposition and all, but apparently in the universe, there was a kind of what I call an intrinsic destiny to the whole thing. That's why we came about. That's why more complicated, more complex chemical organisms come about, because there is a natural intrinsic destiny. But this does not mean that somebody made it that way, that there's an intelligent designer. Religious thinkers always want to have God in the picture. And God does not want to be in the picture. He wants to be the source of it all and can
the ocean.
I am the ocean. But let it happen. That's why
it's just a game. Play the game and play it nicely. I'm busy in my life. I got another things to do in my creation. I have my own fucking world happening. I'm not bothered about your earth shitty fucking stupid life. You got tiny brains in
God works through evolution.
God works through your stupid brains. Your chutiya, chutiya rakhte ho, wo se connection hota hai hamara.
What it means that God created the universe, but I believe that God created the universe. Okay, but that was not a moment, just a moment in time. God is continuously creating the universe, and He's working with the universe as we know the universe scientifically.
It is how do I say that? It's a cycle, right? Like it keeps, like the whole thing keeps happening. It's not one-time thing. It's like a whole, it's very complicated for this brain to understand the whole creation. It's not that easy, guys.
If I'm faithful to what
Stick where you are, just follow me.
Upon the God I believe in, and I said, this God is marvelous. He created a universe that shares in his own dynamism and creativity through the evolutionary process. That is, he's not dominating the universe. He's not an autocrat. He's not a watchmaker. He's none of this. He's a God who created a universe he loves and gave to that universe a creativity and a dynamism of its own.
And when I say love, right? So let's talk about fucking love now. A cow and a cow has a child, right? They also love each other, right? But you take away both of them away. You fucking take away, right? That's not love. That's stupidity, right? I don't know, guys. You need to know the laws of the nature. Go to my channel, bro.
If it's sort of running itself and evolution's running itself, doesn't that leave God with rather little to do? And mightn't he not be, as it were, disappearing altogether if you don't let him interfere in the way that you don't?
I don't come on planet for 5,000 years. I wasn't here for 5,000 years. What do you think there was I? I was somewhere doing my thing.
And now this is philosophy. This is not science. I admit it, But from philosophical considerations, a reasoning human being, some of us reason one way, some of another, would say that everything I know in the universe is contingent. That is, that it doesn't have to exist. In fact, I know it exists for a while and then it goes out of existence.
Guys, exactly the thing called avatar, right? Like on different times, I come in different ways. I don't know how to tell you.
And I can go all the way back. Well, it would be irrational to say there's not a prime mover. I mean, there has to be someone who started this process.
Exactly.
So with existence and with motion and everything else, philosophically considering it, there has to be a necessary being. Now, mind you, I'm reasoning to what I call the God of the philosophers. Now, that happens.
No, you're right, though. It's just not philosopher, it's the
faith
truth.
Also. But it's not adequate. The God of the philosophers is not adequate to me because it's not a God who loves. It's a God who explains certain things that I notice about creation, its contingency and all.
For example, the bug in the system, 786.
It's almost like just the first domino to fall and then everything else. That doesn't sound like a very godlike attribute.
That's what I just said. That's why it's not the God.
It's not satisfying.
God is not satisfying at all.
See, guys, see. Let me be very clear, all right? So there are Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, right? Like that's the thing, right? So what's the job of me when I'm Brahma? I create the thing. I do the software kind of thing, right? Then I become the Vishnu, right? What do I do then? Then what I'm doing exactly right now, right? Like giving you the way to live, right? Like giving you the fucking knowledge, right? Whatever you need to know. Then the Shiva, that's the third part, right? Then I do the Tandav. Then I fuck shit up, right? When you don't listen to me, when you don't behave, then I become the master, right? Then I give you the danda because you gave me the danda when I was in school. So
godlike attribute.
That's what I just said. That's why it's not the
Why
God.
it's not
Philosophical God is not satisfying at all. It's the God who revealed himself, as we were saying before in Scripture. The God who got angry, the God who loved, the God who said to the people of ancient Israel, you turn against me, you rebel against me, and yet I love you and I will continue to love you.
वो बनी है जूस तुम्हारे जूस जिसकी बात कर रहे हैं ना ये जूस की बात कर रहा है गाइस ये यादव हैं सारे जूस मैं तुम्हें जहां तक मेरे को ये नाम भी मिलता जुलता है आपको समझ लग नहीं रहा जूस जादव ये यादव हैं भागे हुए बनिए तो समझ रहे हो मेरी बात को ये उस टाइम के भागे हुए महाभारत समय के इनमें से बहुत सारे बनिए भी मिले हैं ये तभी तो ये पूरे वही हैं भाषा बदल गई इनकी भाषा बदल जाती है ना इतने दूर चले जाओ सात समुद्र मिडल ईस्ट चले गए भाषा तो बदल नहीं है वहां की अरेबिक होगी नहीं
Fundamental constants of the universe and physics are too good to be true. They're fine-tuned. If they were a tiny bit different, the universe wouldn't have the properties it does, and stars wouldn't have come into existence. If the gravitational constant was wrong, etc., we wouldn't be here. And some physicists invoke God to explain the fine-tuning of the universe. That's more than just a prime mover. That's a designer, isn't it? That's somebody who actually twiddled the knobs.
Richard, we're going a little bit afield here, but I think it's a good way to go afield. This is, to me, the great God of the gaps. That is what is called the anthropic principle is what we're talking about, right? I don't think it's either a principle. Well, it's anthropic. What we do as scientists, we observe that the universe is made in this way. And if we changed any one of a series of 20 constants, the Planck constant, the velocity of light, the mass of the proton, if we changed any one of those by a little amount, we wouldn't be here. And that's scientifically acceptable.
So it's a fine-tuned system. It's a very, very fine-tuned system. Sometimes there are bugs in any software, right? 786, remember that, right? So, but other than that, it's a very fine-tuned software system,
That we would not be here unless all these constants had the value they had and the laws of nature were the way they were. If the mass of the proton to the mass of the electron differed by just a little bit, we would not be here
because see, you humans only understand zeros and one when you do this fucking computation. All your fucking Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai, all your bullshit engineers, right? They only understand zeros and one. They can't understand more than this, right? But the nature of the fucking fabric of this nature, but the hardware, right? They don't know the hardware, the software, the code of the hardware, right? And that's where I come, because I created this code of the hardware.
Would not have lived long enough for life to have originated on a planet like the Earth. There are all kinds of these arguments. How does a scientist confront them? To me, it's a scientific problem. It's a scientific observation that does not yet have a scientific answer. But to bring in God to explain this, to me, is the great God of the gaps. Because first of all, why do you bring in God? This is a scientific issue.
But it is see where I come from, right? Where I was born, right? Where I always take birth, right? Because I have to, because those people are I have historical connection with them, and the places I was born, things I've done, all those things are connected, right? So when Steve Jobs said that, look, when you look back at your fucking story, you know what it is, right? So I'm referring to that. So
honestly, and if you bring him in, again, we get back to the intelligent design movement. You bring in a God who kind of at the beginning was making a big bowl of soup, the world. And he tuned it all up. He put a little salt and a little pepper. He added a little celery to make it just right.
It's
so
a
that human
digital
beings
reality.
would
No,
come to
it's not
be.
like that.
That
It's all.
to me is a real absurdity to imagine a creator that would have kind of fine-tuned the universe in that way. I just don't accept that from either a religious or a scientific point of view. One of the explanations that is that there are many universes. And one can imagine how this happened. From the Big Bang, there was an inflationary period where little pockets expanded at greater than the velocity of light because there was no matter. So the space-time framework could expand greater than the velocity of light. And as it did, then it braked.
See,
so we have
you're still stuck in your material bullshit, right? You're not even thinking beyond that. What do I say? There is consciousness. You got consciousness. Where did that come from? No, do you have any answer for that? Richard, come, man. Come. Ask them.
We call universes. So the whole thing is a multiverse. And now you can imagine that there are
There is no multiverse, bro. There is no multiverse. There is only multi-fucking humans on one fucking universe.
Infinite number. And that's imaginable. Whether it's scientifically verifiable is another point. And so in each one of these
So if you can't verify, then what we are talking about? If you can't even verify, what kind of scientist you are, bro?
A different series of constants. It's like rolling the balls around in a lottery. You come up with a different series of numbers each time. But if you do enough of them, then you come up with the series of numbers that we have in our universe.
We have to be in one of those universes that's capable of giving rise to us. Yes.
That's correct. That's sort of a tautology.
The word universe is what? Universe.
My problem with that, but
it's not metaverse. It's universe.
It's more a concern about methodology. Since these universes were created or came to be in this inflationary,
there is only one universe. Everything else is just fucking digital thing.
One another, then light can travel in the whole age of our universe. That is, we cannot communicate.
So we can know nothing about them.
So that's not verifiable or falsifiable to follow the tradition.
Beyond your galaxy, you don't, the 9 planets, that's all it is. Numbers, follow the fucking numbers. Sun is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, blah, blah, blah. That's all it is, right? Don't worry about it.
Falsifiability. Therefore, it's not science to me.
Yes.
But there are some people who are, including some eminent scientists, George Ellis, Martin Rees, people like this are discussing this multiverse theory.
There is it's bullshit, don't worry about it.
So who am I to...
I've been extremely interested in hearing all that you've said, and I agree with so much of it.
Now, Richard will say something interesting, I guess.
Want to use any kind of scientific argument which smells of gaps, that you don't want to have anything to do with that.
I agree thoroughly.
And I suppose my position would be that historically the evidence for the existence of God or gods was always almost exactly what you're now rejecting. I mean, people looked around them, they saw the universe, they saw life, and they thought there had to be a designer. And many people still do that, and you've rightly said why. Historically, that's the way it was. And I suppose Darwin wasn't the only executioner of that way of looking at it, but he was perhaps the most important one. To me, that had the effect of what I call raising my consciousness as to the power of science to explain how big, complicated things that seem to require a special explanation, can actually happen by simple means from simple beginnings. And that makes me feel it doesn't disprove the existence of God, but it makes God seem increasingly superfluous. And having shown how superfluous any kind of design explanation is for just the reasons you said.
Wait. Let me, guys.
Things that seem to require a special explanation can actually happen by simple means from simple beginnings. And that makes me feel it doesn't disprove the existence of God, but it makes God seem increasingly superfluous.
ये word बड़ा Oh, you call me fucking unnecessary, you motherfucker. All right. Richard, that's not right, bro.
And having shown how
That's fucking not
superfluous
right.
any kind of design
That's not
explanation
right.
is for just the reasons you said, it makes me feel, what's the point of believing in God at all? Well, all right, I mean, I'll stop there and see what you say about that.
Yeah. I would be pretty angry and I can end this fucking thing and you all go back to the fucking ocean. You are just a droplet for me, you know. I piss every day, so I can piss more fucking bullshit, you know. What the fuck, guys? You're making me angry now.
Accept in the way in which you present.
I didn't expect that, motherfucker.
That is, I do not need God. That the God in whom I believe is a God who gave himself superfluously, whether I needed him or not, that in my religious tradition, in my firm, deep down within me belief, God gave himself to me. And he gave himself. It's his love for me. We can only experience here on the surface of the earth the love between human beings. And sometimes that becomes...
Okay, so I didn't give anything to anybody, right? So listen to me, what is going on? So, it's all about entropy, guys. If the universe won't move, shit will be stagnant and it will die. So don't, I don't know, guys, what the fuck. So the software needs to improve, right? So it needs to...
very, very important, the love between two human beings or many human beings. God's love transcends that many times over. This is religious faith, Richard. And I can't pretend that I can prove it to anyone, because if I did, it would not be religious faith. There's an element in me and in human culture in general, okay, that says, if I believe in God, because God gave himself to me, then the way I think is very different than the way...
I am like a headmaster. I judge you by your deeds. Do you understand? If you do good deeds, I judge you, you know, because the whole system is because you asked for it. You asked for it, like you wanted to experience this shit. You don't get a human life just like that. You can be a tree. You could be a fucking monkey, you know, but you're a human being just because you wanted it. And I gave it to you. And it's a gift from my side, right? Like a human life I'm giving you. And now if you don't appreciate that on fucking my planet, I'm gonna, you know, not give it to you. Take it back, you know. Why would I give you my game? It's my fucking video game, bro. You know, you get it for free, right? Like, why? Why would I give you my video game, you know? Why would I let you in? If you really want to be in, I can make you a tree. And you can just stand there all your life. You know, or I can send you to a different place where you burn. It's all up to me, guys.
I admit it's an if, but I will not accept that I'm being duped. I will accept that it's superfluous in the sense that contrary to what many Catholics do, they look to God as a source of explanation. In fact, I have many Catholic friends. I preach to them, I talk to them, who pray that we scientists will not find certain explanations so that they can fill them with God. They really have that mentality. Well, to me, that's absurd. I mean, God gave us brains and means of
I like this guy.
in order that we could explore the universe and find answers to the questions we have. God is not a God of explanation, primarily. He's a God of love. And consequently, I would accept that God is superfluous if I'm looking for a God to explain things. I don't need God. In fact, if God is a God of need,
you don't need God. But there are fucking 8.9 billion other who are doing stupid shit and eating halal and all that. Fucking my virus, fucking they all need to know the fucking God thing. You don't need it, but other people need to know. So what's your point now?
Not God, because he transcends our needs. He gave himself superfluously, gratuitously.
I just let you play my video game as a human. What's the big, like, it's not a big deal, bro. You are my friend, you know, maybe you are my friend somewhere else, you know.
This faith that I have, and this faith is nothing other than God himself. Now, I'm getting very preachy, I must admit.
No, you're talking good.
It's a whole other dimension of human life. It certainly is for me. And I'm afraid it's not shared by a lot of religious believers. They really are subject to the very criticism you're making. That science has come to explain so much that why can't we simply accept that if we work hard enough, science is going to explain everything, and therefore God is superfluous. Well, I don't know about the science end of that. I have a slight suspicion that will never explain
everything. That will piss me off. If one more time you call me fucking, if I'm unnecessary for this fucking planet, I would be pissed, guys. That's not the right way to deal with God, you know. You must remember the creator. I created the video game.
Because if we did that, I'm out of a job, and so are you.
Well, then you are worried about your financial situation, I guess.
But I do criticize those who will, from two ends. I criticize you in the sort of idea that God is superfluous because, you know, we seem to be getting to a point where we can explain things that we needed God to explain time ago. You know, we've now found an explanation for. Okay, your famous book on the rainbow. You know, what did you call it? The Unweaving the Rainbow. It's magnificent. And it does away with God to explain the rainbow. We don't need God to explain the rainbow. All we need is, you know...
What do you really need?
Know what a spectrum is.
Yeah,
but the point is in the end... So what?
So you know now you know what the fucking spectrum is. It's made with the 7 things. 7 रंग होते हैं भाई, 7 सुर होते हैं, 7 ये होते हैं, 7 वो होते हैं. हमारे पास 7 सब कुछ है. आगे बोल.
I'm foisting a little bit upon you, but as a scientist, I do believe even in scientific research, we're participating in mystery that will never have the final answer.
भैया मैंने आंसर दे तो दिया अब और कैसे दूं? I just gave you the fucking answer, bro. ये सब मैंने ही क्रिएट किया जब तुम्हें मैंने बता दिया कि भैया पूरा 0 से लेके 9 तक का भोसड़ी का सिस्टम है. इसमें 7 रंग 7 ये सब चीजें 7 नंबर में क्यों बना रखी हैं तुम्हारे पिताजी ने? ये सब मैथमेटिक्स है भाई. 786 तुम्हारा वायरस है, इसीलिए मैं आया मुझे ठीक करने. समझ में ना आ रही तुम्हारी बात? बहुत बड़ी बात
enthralling.
Yeah, to keep going on, we have to think that we will have the final answer, right?
Yeah, the final answer is on my video, guys. The final answer is on my video. I am the creator.
There's this tension. We will because, you know, we're working so hard.
I take it would seem to follow from what you've just been saying that you don't need God for explanation. That you don't believe in miracles.
But well. He does, and you will too if you check my channel out, bro. Maybe some you guys, my viewers, right? Can you forward this thing to Richard, like this video, and maybe to this guy? I'm not even sure what his name is, but yeah, if you can forward my video to these guys, they will know the miracles of life.
Do you have any easy questions?
Well, I mean, wouldn't something like the virgin birth be pretty counter to the spirit of what you've just been saying?
Now Richard is going to debunk his Bible story. So I'm see, there is no point going there. But anyway, how much time do we have? Another 15 minutes. Let's end this quickly.
My general background to trying to give an answer would be the following, and I'll stutter over miracles. I really will. I have to admit it. I'm not embarrassed.
You don't have to, bro. Just check my channel out, you know.
It was God's free way, again, of dealing with us. He freely, in his own way of thinking, decided to save us because we were sinners, original sinners.
No, you are not fucking sinners, bro. You are my friends. What the fuck is wrong with you guys?
Sin this way.
You just read the wrong book. Book to enslave humanity.
That is inconsistent with
the wrong book to enslave humanity, you know?
To things that God, well, I'll use the word, can intervene in his creation.
I am intervening.
I would not want God God, please, to do this too often.
What do you mean?
But I can't believe that he can do it.
I can do it. Yeah.
And he hasn't done it too often.
Well, I am back and I'm trying to show you what I can do.
I don't believe it.
You just need to check out my channel,
To come back to the...
Yeah, again, you're using the fucking same word again. Bro, don't use that word, I told you.
I believe that God is always doing this.
Which one? Just name one that you really do believe in then.
The virgin birth, the resurrection.
Guys, watch Harry Potter. That's a better book.
Really seriously inconsistent with the wonderful things you were saying earlier. It seems to be so...
It does.
Petty in a way.
It does. But from my religious faith, it's based upon it, I must say, it puts me in an embarrassing position as a scientist.
Harry Potter, I told you, right? You guys have came up with the two good books, right? 2000 ago, you came up with Bible, and in I think 10 years ago, she came, what's her name? Came up with the whole Harry Potter thing. So it's the same thing, guys. The Bible and Harry Potter, pretty much the same thing.
With myself by accepting that God is a God of love, who loves in this way.
Guys, there's nothing. The love is there, but it's more about truth right now,
I think we'd both agree that one of the great virtues of science is it's universal. Japanese science is not different from American science, etc. But yet, when I asked you about the virgin birth, and you said it's part of the tradition in which you were brought up, and you'd earlier agreed that had you been born a Muslim, you would have had a different tradition. So had you been born a Muslim, you would believe it.
Guys, it's even funnier, right? In fucking that other bullshit 786, they have flying donkey. Do you believe that? Oh, it's funny as fuck. Oh man, like that. It was like, I think it's the whole. There's the word, right? Like you call schizophrenic, something to do with the mental illness. So the guy was mentally ill, right? Like the fucking wrote that thing, or maybe they came up with the fucking story. Actually, he stole the story from Bible only. I think so. Because Bible was earlier, right? And then this motherfucker was born in the fucking middle of nowhere, and then he came up with a different story, and now half of the world has gone mental listening to that motherfucking story. And that's the virus. It's a virus story. It's a virus story, guys. And that virus I need to fix. 786. Remember that.
I don't know, Muhammad's winged horse or whatever, which I take it you don't believe in. How can you reconcile that with being a scientist?
The only thing I can say to that is what I said before, is that over a short period of time, these various religious traditions seem to diverge.
Yes, but I mean, either Jesus was born of a virgin or he wasn't. Either Muhammad had a winged horse or not. There's not going to change.
How do you judge the veracity of this? All I can say is within a faith tradition. That is, I have to deny that some of the things that Muslims believe, I do not believe.
Mental illness, guys. Mental fucking illness. Half of the planet is going through mental illness right now. What can I say?
I believe that, that's correct. For that period of time.
And that's the reason I have to come,
Well, for believing or not in the virgin birth does not make it true.
In any language. You can translate now. You can Google Translator.
Yes. By the way, if I may say a little bit of aside, these different religious traditions. I once had a conversation, a close friend, Carl Sagan, and I abuse
language a lot. You know why? Because that's your pop culture. I'm fucking doing this because just to end your pop culture. You need to be respectful. You need to be fucking make sure that every word is properly used. You can't just fucking misuse words, right? Like you can't just fuck my planet, right? Yeah.
Said, George, how come you got the gift and I didn't? Well, how do you answer that?
Well, I mean,
you either got it and you don't know it yet, or you will get it.
Yes.
Because God loves all his children. But that's an aside.
Yeah. Because you're part of like that fucking whole, from that ocean, the little droplet of the fucking ocean. And I'm the ocean. So I got problems. When you don't make my droplet dirty, I got problems.
Why they are?
Well, I would say, first of all, that Catholic thinking is never monolithic. There are vast divergences among the more intelligent, the less intelligent of believing Catholics. So it's widespread. Statistically, I think the Catholic Church, the thinking within the Catholic Church is more
Just pray
inclined
to me,
to
bro.
accepting
Come touch my feet. You'll be right.
enthusiastically.
Come
It's
touch
not
my
part
feet.
of
I
what
told
I
you.
would call
I'm
more
your God right
fundamentalist
now.
movement
Sitting here
within
talking to you
American
live.
religions,
You're
where
done, bro.
evolution is
I'm
looked upon as necessarily being atheistic,
Bible
and
and
consequently
what's
it's
the
kind
other
of
one?
shunned.
Harry Potter.
I think
Harry Potter is even
Catholics
better, you know.
who don't want to accept scientific evolution are those who don't quite understand what it's all about.
Exactly.
They do believe that since we came from apes, we're apes, that they're
No,
reducing
that's stupid and
us
dumb
to
as
just
fuck.
being our
Why are apes still here if you are
this evolutionary process, and that's why they reject it. The official church, I think, has matured very much on this, as we were talking about, since the time of John Paul II, and maturing even more. There's a lot of ignorance because
Exactly.
churches do not always
Then
express
fix your
themselves
ignorance
very
then, you know.
clearly.
I've heard churchmen say that they believe in evolution, but evolution is God's way of bringing life into being, bringing humanity into being.
Richard. Let me explain you what fucking evolution is. All right. So a software is running, right? Now, what this needs to do, like you're in a game, right? So you need to. How do I explain? It's very complicated to explain in like on the video, right? Like I can't explain this thing in like 2 minutes. I need to sit down and explain this, right?
Cling on to God despite everything else. My own view of that would be very clear.
It's pretty common sense though. Like for example, I'll tell you something, right? So you need there is some water, right? And now you need to drink that water. You keep coming, but you can't because your mouth is like, you know, not designed in that way, right? You don't have hands, let's say, right? You just have to drink the water from that fucking thing. So what will happen eventually that you keep pushing your fucking lips like that, like a duck to drink that water, right? Like that. Then your lips will become eventually, and then you breed with the other women or somebody, right? Who's been doing the same thing. And then your children will have that fucking duck-like lips, right? So now you see the point, right? What evolution is like. It's like, this is what evolution is. It's like the survival system. Like the whole system needs to survive, you know, the entropy. Like let's check our last video. Entropy, what the fuck that means.
The following: if I believe in God, for the many reasons that we've talked about, but it's a big if. I don't expect everybody to do so. If I believe in God and I know the way the universe is, then I reflect upon the God who I believe created the universe. And I said, marvelous that God created the universe to be the way it is. Namely, it's an evolutionary universe. It has a dynamism. It has a creativity all its own.
You can call it what you want. Don't forget the creator. That's all it is. And the laws of nature, right? And laws are created by me because it's my game. So yeah.
In fact, I once challenged theology a bit by saying the following, and I've been criticized for it, but I have to explain myself to the people that criticize me. I said, if God were limited to being immanent in the universe, limited to that, it's an if, for sake of argument, would God have known a few billion years after the Big Bang, and knowing all the laws of physics, etc., could he have predicted that life would come to be? And my answer is, to be faithful to what I know as a scientist, my answer is no. God could not know what's not knowable. Life was not destined to be in the sense of necessarily come to be, I don't think, from evolutionary theory. I mean, the combination of...
Now you're asking me that who created me? That's what you're asking, right? Nobody creates me, bro. Nobody creates me. Don't ask stupid questions.
And necessary processes in a very fertile universe that I've talked about many times. There were chance processes. We could have come to be or not come to be. We could have arms that come off our belly button and our back.
I was हिंदी में बोलूं, अंग्रेजी में बोलूं, काहे में बोलूं गाइस? मैं हमेशा कैसे समझाऊं इनको? मैं हमेशा से था, मैं हमेशा से हूं, मैं हमेशा से रहूंगा, मेरा ना समय है, तुम्हारे समय तुम्हारे लिए होता है, वही वाली बात आ गई ना। तुम्हें समय भी नहीं समझ में आएगा तो मैं क्या ही बोलूंगा।
Because of chance processes could have.
See, what you are asking is about time. Time is limited to you guys. I am timeless, guys. So I don't have time. I don't take birth. I don't die. I don't have any of that.
Differently. The theological answer, of course, is in Christian faith, God is transcendent. God is outside time. All events are simultaneous to God. Of course, he would know. But my point was to limit God to being
very smart guy, I'll tell you that. Very smart guy. Very smart guy. I'll tell you that.
In the universe,
I'll give that one to
emphasize the very nature of the chance processes working in the universe as we know it scientifically. And I think we have to accept that.
As you just told us, Pope John Paul II said that evolution was the best scientific explanation. I would say that the best explanation is the scientific explanation.
Well, this is exactly what he did, and this is exactly what I am doing. What do you want now, Richard?
Explanation, but I would insist that science is not everything. We can take scientific results and give a philosophical, a theological interpretation to them in many different ways.
Exactly.
I would not say it's the only explanation. I said it's not that science just provides sort of the feeding grounds for philosophy and theology, but philosophers and theologians do think about, in a much broader context, the results of science and the question of evolution, because we have come from.
Guys, I just explained evolution. That duck example, rewind the video, you will know what evolution is, all right? Calm down. Calm down, everybody. Calm down.
And that would have to, of course, as you know very well, be more specified. But let's say we've come from apes. That does not make me an ape.
See, guys, and if he's coming from an ape, then why are apes still here, right? Think about it. Think fucking logically, right? Like, think logically. And he's right. He's not an ape. He got a brain, much better brain, right? He can think, right?
I mean, that evolution is very creative and brings about and has brought about a human being that is not reducible to its antecedents. It's not reducible to its. It's the whole scientific idea of self-organization bringing about ever more complex chemical, biological systems. A philosophical reflection upon that would say we finally came to a complex biological, chemical system, the human being, that is.
You're just getting confused because you don't know that it is a digital reality. So you are thinking that it's all the thing you see is real, right? Like it's not. It's all Maya. Now you need to figure out what the word Maya is, right?
More than just the organization of the chemicals and the biology. It has what in religious traditions you would say spirit or soul. But that would take us into a theological discourse that I'm not capable of following.
But do you think then that the soul entered at some point in evolution, Australopithecus, Homo erectus? Is it that kind of question?
I don't believe in the soul.
No.
I mean, if it's a question of belief, I don't believe this idea of...
So it's consciousness, right? You call it consciousness, you call it soul, you call it spirit, you call it whatever is, you can't measure. Whatever it is, you can't measure, right? The droplet from that ocean. I'm the ocean, you guys are droplets. So that's what it is. You guys are just droplets. So you call whatever the name you want to give it, right? Like you give it name red label. That droplet is red label, all right?
Time in the evolutionary process, God put a soul.
I think John Paul II implied that is what happened.
Well, a Catholic tradition can be interpreted that way, but it's certainly not. It's not a doctrine that I have to believe.
Harry Potter.
I don't believe. Okay. I simply think that at best, I like to think about, as Teilhard de Chardin did, about the spirit emerging in this whole evolutionary process, that the whole process is continuous, and that from the material evolution, the spirit arose. However we define the spirit, it came through the evolution.
Spirit is... So, what is this? Oh, as I said, everything is coming out of me, right? So it's like you're just droplet of the ocean. You name whatever the fuck you want to call yourself. I don't care. Spirit, consciousness, whatever you want to call yourself, just come to some kind of conclusion. What are you it's very annoying. These guys are,
of course, is working with
not coming to a conclusion,
taking God out of the process. In fact, I'm putting him more into it than a God who sort of puts his finger at a magic moment into this evolutionary process.
You think it arose during, there must have been an animal that didn't have a soul, and then a subsequent animal.
Yes,
guys, hang on. Just a second.
And that from the material evolution, the spirit arose. However we define the spirit, it came through the evolutionary process. And God, of course, is working with it all along. So I'm not taking God out of the process. In fact, I'm putting him more into it than a God.
So all you need to do is check my YouTube, and there are 2 videos. It says 1000 name of Vishnu. Now, I don't know how old are you right now? I don't know. Whatever your limited age is, right? All you got to do is morning, evening, just remember my name. Like, listen to those 2 songs every day, twice, right? And I guarantee you a good place. That's all I can do right now because I'm live. I can't. If we ever meet, then we'll talk. Otherwise, what you need to do right now. Through this video.
Into this evolutionary process.
I think it arose during.
Okay, so I wanted to take a screenshot here, guys. I really like this name, The Poetry of Reality. Just give me 1 second, guys. Yeah.
There must have been an animal that didn't have a soul, and then a subsequent animal.
Yes, but as all of evolution, as you know better than I do, Richard, all of evolution is continuous. The passage from inorganic to organic, from vegetable to animal, from one kind of animal to another. We can't decide, when this little fish became a reptile, can we?
No, indeed.
You cannot decide, but I have a story about that. Matsya Avatar. You go check that out. Like the whole fucking Noah story, that fish keeps coming back to this thing. So you know the fish story.
It's the same with the rest of this process.
If you believe that the soul survives death, then you would say.
Oh, now. I believe I survive death. Now, the mystery...
No, that's like, who are you then? If you survive death, then who are you? Give him this answer, guys. This answer will be very interesting.
That I don't believe my soul does. I do.
But
I mean, in the afterlife, I surely want to have a gin and tonic and play some tennis. But how that's going to happen, it's a mystery.
But do you believe chimpanzees survive death?
No.
So, see, guys, the thing is that when this body will end, the droplet will go back to the ocean. There will be, the whole system is there. There is a whole fucking system happening. What do you think? Like when you die, that's it, right? Nothing. There's a whole system happening. Whatever you did all your life here, it's recorded. Every fucking thing has been recorded. There is this guy called Chitragupt. He's sitting there doing that. He's like my baniya, he's my CA. Like I pay him, right? Like with good deeds. Told you. Check out my old videos. You'll know everything. So that Chitragupt remembers everything what you did. And then according to that, you will be either back on earth, either if you have done wrong things, a lot of misdeeds, right? Like whatever the law, against the law, which are universal laws. So you go to the other place, which is like called Narak. Narak is you get like danda, your pakoda will be talad, fucking everything will happen, right? Shitty things, right? Like you'll get like your soul will be like, whatever you call that consciousness, soul, or that droplet will suffer a lot, right? Like because if you have done good things, the droplet will go into a very good place where the droplet will be comfortable all the time, 24 hours, like whatever you ask for, because you did good things, you passed the test. So this is the test, right? This video game is a test. It's very complicated, the whole fucking thing, but I'm trying to do my best, right, to explain this thing, right? Like to remember the word Chitragupt, remember the virus 786, and now we are here, right?
And so ignore the common ancestor.
Yeah. Not necessarily. I can't say they don't.
But so there must be the first animal in evolution that survived its own death.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah. We always have to ask that question of, was there a first? And yeah, we have to say there was a first, but we don't know when.
You don't know, but I know. I was there first. Then everybody else came along, right?
And how? Okay. In the whole evolutionary process, you know better than I do. the continuity of the whole process.
I have said that evolution in my personal history, and you've expressed personal history, in my personal history, it was my understanding of evolution that led me to atheism because of that consciousness raising thing I mentioned earlier. I take it you don't agree with that.
No, absolutely. Obviously, I do not agree with that.
So guys, let's agree to disagree and accept that I'm your God, all right? And that's the best you can do right now. Or if you don't accept, I don't really care, because you have already called me that fucking thing. You called me something with a weird name, super fucking whatever, right? Like, which is unnecessary, and I'm pretty pissed about that already. So what can I say, you know? No,
from it. In fact, I think evolution drives me to a more confident and meaningful belief in God, to a theism. But it's not an ism. I mean, God is a person, so I hate to put...
Well, there we go, guys. Now he's saying, I'm a person, so here I am sitting in front of you.
Theism on it, but it's just the opposite of driving me to atheism. It's just the opposite. And the reason is, I repeat what we shared before, that God is not a God of explanation. If I were seeking for a God of explanation for evolution, I'd probably be an atheist.
There we go.
Because I can
perfectly well
explain all that I know so far, and I hope into the future to explain it with science. So if all I'm looking for is explanation.
And guys, I'm a scientist. That's exactly who I am. I am also a researcher of this reality, you know, nature of the reality. So yeah.
I'd be driven to atheism. I agree.
Well, we're very similar because, of course, I was looking for... When I believed in God, it was precisely a God of explanation that I was looking...
Richard, I win now. I gave you the explanation, and I didn't give him the explanation. There we go, guys.
So when I realized that he wasn't an explanation, I lost my faith in him. And so we're left with you.
Bro, all you guys who are listening to this video, send this video to Richard, and his faith will be restored. I'll tell you that.
Coming from your tradition, from your family upbringing, which sounds to me pretty weak, actually.
Oh, I don't want to pretend.
Hey, he's a very smart guy. He's a very smart guy. He's not weak, bro. He's not weak at all.
It's strong. It's strong for me, but I can't give it a firm, completely rational explanation, or it wouldn't be faith.
And the whole idea is now you guys need to agree to disagree and accept that I'm your God, and that's it.
Yes, so it's faith, and you can't question faith.
That is correct. I cannot. It's too deep inside me.
Thank you
very much. You both are right in the sense, you know.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can show...
Hey guys, did you enjoy the episode? Please share it with Richard. And thank you very much. Signing off.